A few days ago, I said that there are many great stories in the book of Judges, and the story of Gideon certainly qualifies as one of them. Gideon may be best remembered for his use of a fleece to reassure himself of God's favor, or for his leadership in freeing Israel from Midianite oppression. And much can be learned from his destruction of the idolatrous altars in his community. However, today I'll be focusing on the beginning of his story. Listen to verses 11 and 12 of Judges chapter 6. Now the angel of the Lord came and sat under the terebinth at Ophrah, which belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, while his son Gideon was beating out wheat in the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said to him, "The Lord is with you, O mighty man of valor." Here we are introduced to Gideon. Throughout the story, he is portrayed as being a bit reluctant, maybe even timid. But we probably shouldn't be too hard on him, at least not in regards to his threshing wheat in a winepress, for there is a fine line between bravery and stupidity. Regardless, it's what the angel, who I believe to be the pre-incarnate Christ, says that intrigues me. "The Lord is with you, O mighty man of valor." That is an amazing statement. Now, Gideon foolishly objects to both parts of this statement. He rather self-righteously questions why God has abandoned them, apparently forgetting about God's promised punishment for idolatry. And then he tries to pull a Moses and argue his way out of his assignment based on his own weakness and inability. But here's the thing. We, like Gideon, struggle to embrace what God says about us and to us. Throughout the Bible, we see the power and purpose of God's words. And while God may not physically appear to us and speak to us like he did for Gideon, the reality is that the incarnate Word dwelt among us for a time, and that today we have God's Word in written form. So for us, just like for Gideon, obedience is an act of faith. Faith in the power and purpose of the God who speaks. Consider these truths. God has told us that we are loved, John 3:16, that we are valuable, Matthew 6:26, that he is on our side, Romans 8:31, that we are chosen, Ephesians 1:4, that we have been forgiven and redeemed, Ephesians 1:7, and that in Jesus we are more than conquerors, Romans 8:37, and that God will use us to do greater things than Jesus did, John 14:12. And those truths are just the tip of the iceberg. I say these things not to shame us, but to encourage us, for there is a bit of Gideon in all of us. Admittedly, faith can be a struggle. Just like Gideon, it's easy to look around and to question God. It's easy to look at ourselves and to see a different picture than what God says is true. But here's the thing. As you read the text today, notice how the Lord responds to Gideon. God is amazingly patient and gentle with him. God intentionally acts to reassure him and to increase his faith. The prophet Isaiah rightly says of God, "A bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick he will not quench." In other words, God acts with compassion towards those who sincerely struggle to act with faith, and God increases the faith of those who seek him. So today, as you read this text, as you wrestle to choose faith over fear, remember that Jesus is the author and perfecter of our faith. So in our weakness, let's turn to him. May God bless you, and as always, be safe, wise, and loving.